hope that this is live on the right stream because I started a little late today. So I'm just going to double check that we are on the correct stream here. It's normally 15 seconds behind. Yep, there we go. Very good. Cool. Hi, everyone. So this is Office Hours. If you're not familiar with Office Hours, then let me just give you a quick rundown by sharing my screen. Share screen. Desktop 2. Here it is. So Office Hours is twice weekly, hour-long conversation. Today it will, I think I might be able to make it almost an hour. And the thing is that I also have an Epic React Dev live stream in about an hour, just over an hour. So I may have to cut it a little short today. Sorry I was late. I'm kind of working on this Epic React thing. But yeah, so I just answer questions from people about really anything. You can share your screen or whatever is easiest to facilitate the asking and answering of questions. And then this is, of course, recorded on YouTube for people to watch later. So, and let me get, actually somebody just asked for a link to that YouTube. So let me share that. Oh, and that's the other thing. All the links that I share are on Discord. So yeah, you can go through the Discord or join the Discord as well, which I recommend because it's awesome. So that's that. Does anybody have a question to kick us off?
I could start.
Sure, go for it, Tiger.
2 questions prepared. The first one is we have a component library in our company, and we have components that are deprecated, and we want to tell the user who's using this library, hey, this component is deprecated, please use this component or another component. Like, how would you go about doing that?
Yeah. Are you using TypeScript?
Yeah, we are using Yace X2. So
okay.
We are slowly converting, but
okay, yeah. So
I could show you.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be useful for me to see your specific thing for my answer, but let me see if I can find something. Oh, shoot, I can't remember. Recently in either DOM testing library or React testing library, we added some deprecation messages. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in DOM testing library for some of our old async utilities. Let's see. No, that's, well, here, let me just share this, share my screen.
You can share it on Discord.
Yeah, and I'll share a link on Discord as well. So here's what I'm looking at right now. And so this is one thing that we did for wait for DOM change is we have this has warned is false. And we don't use wait for DOM change anymore because wait for can do everything that it used to be able to. So yeah, we have this has warned variable that's just a module level variable. And then if we haven't warned yet, so when this is called, if we haven't warned yet, then we do a console warn to indicate that it's no longer needed. And then we set that to true, so it only warns once, because it would be super annoying if every time they called this, it warned them, right? So, we just do it once, and this actually works out pretty nicely. This is a runtime solution to this problem. So that's one solution that you could look at. And actually, let me share a link in Discord that will last forever, because that one, we're going to remove this method, and so eventually master won't have this. And in fact, eventually it's going to be called main instead of master. But anyway, there was a recent pull request that I'm just going to see if I can find it. And it may have been on React testing library. Yeah, here we go. Mark deprecated methods as deprecated. So if you're using TypeScript, then you can add an @deprecated message on your types. And so if your library is built in TypeScript, then you just add the @deprecated message to the function. Otherwise, if you put it on your type definitions, and then that's even better, because then consumers will see the deprecated message in their editor, and even like a cross out line on the code that they're writing. So it's much more obvious that, like, oh, like, you can do this thing, but I don't recommend you do this thing. So yeah, does that help?
Could you show me the code again? And this would only work with TypeScript, right?
Yeah, I wonder, with VS Code is pretty powerful. You might be able to get this to work with regular JavaScript. And so just add some JS doc at the top of your function, and add at deprecated. It'll probably work. So I would give that a try. You might try both of these approaches, just to, have
Thanks
fun.
for the links. And yeah, sure. The second question was, we want to use Lodash in server-side rendering. How would you go about doing that? Because you cannot use Lodash -s, so you have to use Lodash, but it's not tree shakeable compared to Lodash -s.
Yeah. So,
one thought that we had was writing our own utility library, but I was wondering.
Yeah, like you could do that. I don't use Lodash a ton anymore because JavaScript just has so many features and they're fast enough for what I need. However, Lodash does have some utilities that people find really useful, and some people just like really love Lodash just in general. So, yeah, for those utilities, I would actually, I think somebody in the Discord chat mentioned the Babel plugin, Babel plugin Lodash, and I'm pretty sure that is as tree shakeable as you can get it. So I would just recommend using that. I think there's also, I would not be surprised if there was a Lodash macro that does the same thing. Oh, there's not. So this is a perfect opportunity, if anybody wants to turn Babel plugin Lodash into a Lodash macro package. So you'd import Lodash from lodash.macro, and then it would do this for you. Yeah, that if you can't configure Babel, like you're using a tool that doesn't allow you to, like create React app or something, then you could create a code or a macro to do that for you. But anyway, I'll just drop a link for anybody who's interested in like, what the heck is a macro? And you can go have your mind be blown. This is fun stuff. So hopefully that's helpful, Tiger.
Yeah, definitely. And the third question, real quick, is like, how was your PayPal interviews? Like, did you go to the classical, the coding interview as they talk about, or how? Like,
yeah,
how was it?
you were the one who asked me that originally. I can't remember. So I actually answered that question, I think, on my last office hours. So you can go check that out for a deeper dive. And I think it may have been one of the first questions I answered, but so you can dive into that for a deeper dive. But it was pretty practical. I had a phone screen, and then an on-site, and then a coding challenge, and then an on-site interview. There were 4 interviews and lunch. Yeah, it was a relatively painless process, I guess.
But it was the kind of the classical data structure and algorithm stuff.
No, it was very practical.
Okay.
So it's like, here are the things that we do on the job, and yeah, I really liked that about that interview.
Awesome. So. That's it for me. Let the others ask.
Yeah, that's all right. Any other questions before I turn to the Discord chat?
I have one from our learning club.
Sure.
Can I share my screen, Kent?
Absolutely.
Okay. Just give me a second. Can you guys see my VS Code?
Yep.
Okay. So we just have a to-do app, and we are writing tests on that during our meetings. So one scenario that came up yesterday was, so we have a simple login form. It has a login button, has a disabled prop, and which is basically this Boolean for is loading. So when we submit the form, we are setting it true. Once login is successful, we set it to false. So we had a test to check for disabling of the button. But what's happening is it disables, and then this API responds back, and it again sets this to false. So we are not able to test that state of it being disabled because it gets enabled again. So is there a way to achieve that?
Oh, I see. So you click on it, it gets disabled, and it should get disabled immediately after you click the button. So you could move line 26 to line 24, take it out of the wait, and that actually should solve your problem. I've got some other comments on this, but is there a reason you put that within a wait?
I think it was not working with this, so I was just trying it out with wait. This was one of the suggestions I had got before. Because we are, let me try that out real quick.
Is this for a workshop that you're going through or something?
Yeah, we just wrote a to-do app, and then we are just writing tests for it.
For is this a coding school that you're in or something?
No, it's our learning club, like which you
Oh,
provisioned. Yeah.
very cool.
So we just wanted more practice than going over the course. So we are
Yeah,
done with the course. Now we are just pair programming and writing tests.
that's awesome. Very cool.
Uh, I should
Sorry,
have.
sometimes it takes a while when you're live
Yeah,
streaming. I've noticed, or screen sharing. So
I should have just ran it for this. I'm sorry.
yeah, you're
Okay.
right. There we go. So it does fail, or one of them fails. Yeah,
Yeah, it's,
not disabled. Okay, so I am not sure why it's not disabled. It should be. Here, can you hide your terminal for a little bit? So your on submit handler is, yeah, it's put on the form. When I click the login button, that login button is the submit button, right?
yeah.
Um, Here, let's
I could
double
scroll
check
down.
its type is submit, or at least its type is not button. Yeah, okay, cool. So, yeah, then you call into the on submit handler. Presumably the username. Oh yeah, you need to set the username and password. Because right now you're on line 14 in your login
Mhm.
component. That is jumping out of that, right? Unless
Let
it's pre-filled or
me.
something.
Yeah. Let me just copy paste that real quick.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, whoops.
Thank you. I need to copy paste more.
Yeah,
Okay.
no worries.
So I got let's do
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
think
looks
it
like it's
passed.
passing. Dum,
Yeah,
ba-da-dum.
yeah, it passed. I think
Cool.
this is something else now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, does that make sense? Why we needed to make that change?
Yeah, it is. It is. And yeah, yeah. I think I was thinking because I'm doing a API call, that's why we added the wait
Mm-hmm.
keyword
Yeah,
before.
so what you could do is you can keep that wait in there to wait for it to get re-enabled.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I think we'll move on to the next question, but I'll give you a couple of tips from what I see in your code here.
Sure.
So the first is I've got a blog post actually for some common mistakes with React Testing Library. Some of these mistakes are kind of my fault, to be honest, because you're going through testingjavascript.com, and I haven't updated it yet to account for some of these things. And so, yeah, just like Ivan is saying, using screen is really useful for find and get queries and the query queries. So yeah, that's one of the things. Another thing that I noticed in your login component is the isLoading Boolean.
Mhm.
And I have a blog post that's called "Stop Using isLoading Booleans." So I wrote it just for you. No, just kidding. But yeah, that might be helpful as well. And of course, you can feel free to ignore me if you're happy with what you're doing. Then that's great. And then another thing is, I saw you were using fireEvent.click. You'll probably want to switch that to userEvent.click. And I saw that you were using user event in general, so that's great. And then what was, oh yeah, the wait function has been
Mhm.
deprecated and replaced by wait for. So you can
Okay.
just, that's like a find replace sort of.
Also, we had another question, quick question. Like, is there
Yeah.
a difference between wait and act? Like, do we use that with, do we use act with React testing library at all?
Great question. Yeah, so Act is super annoying. And so React Testing Library actually builds in Act to all of its async methods. And so, yeah, if you're using the latest version of React Testing Library or recent versions, we built in Act into like all of the fire event calls, all of the, wait for like all the async things have Act built in. So there are only a couple of situations where you actually need to use Act yourself. And let me grab a blog post that talks about those situations. It's called Fix the Not Wrapped in Act warning. So I'll paste that in the Discord as well. So plenty of stuff to read now.
Thanks a lot for your help. Have a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. Anybody else have a question on the Zoom? You have preference, or you have priority over anybody who's just in the Discord. So I'm going to look in the Discord, but if you have a question, you can interrupt me as I go. Okay, I need to find where the top of this is because I started late. So there were a whole bunch of chats in here that I may have missed. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is from Ryan. Let me share my screen so you all can see what I'm looking at. So the question is, when a script tag is returned from JSX, this is, of course, not the proper way to add third-party script, but I was experimenting, which is great. React adds the script tag into the DOM, but the browser does not execute the script code. It bothers me that I do not know why. So that's a perfectly reasonable thing to be bothered about. And Aprilian, I'm not sure how to say this person's name, but they are very helpful, and I appreciate them in this community. Suggests that a way that or potential content security policy problem, like a couple things, interesting ideas and things to look into. But Ryan actually kind of found it himself that it's officially unsupported and intentionally unsupported. It's created via inner HTML, and script tags are created this way are pretty much rendered useless. Yes, and this is intentional. If I were to guess, I don't know for sure, but if I were to guess, the reason why they did this is because for security reasons, the same reason that they have dangerously set inner HTML. Because if you were rendering script tags and you were to interpolate some user input, then you'd be in a world of hurt. So because it's not the proper way to add third-party libraries, they make it a little hard, and that's intentional. So anyway, glad that Ryan kind of found an answer to this question. I guess I didn't need to belabor that. Lean or Leon, I'm not sure how to say your name. If you tell me or something, I will try to say your name properly. Leon, I'm going to say Leon. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you release Epic React, will you update the videos in testing JavaScript in the videos regarding mocking? So yes, indeed, I absolutely plan on doing this. So the question is about testingjavascript.com, and I have videos on how to mock HTTP requests. And when I recorded those videos, MSW wasn't a thing; it didn't exist. And so we mock fetch directly. Which I no longer recommend that you do. And so as soon as Epic React is updated, my next goal is to update testing JavaScript. And yes, the mocking videos will be completely redone to do MSW. Good question. Do you have any thoughts on tracking implementation and React when a user clicks page speed, conversion tracking? So when I was at PayPal, we did this type of tracking, and we used a client-side library that predated our use of React. And there was a team that was dedicated to this, and they just gave us this library of JavaScript code, which was way too much code, but it is what it was. Yeah, we just hooked up to that, and basically it would check the DOM for any data attributes that were relevant to it. And so and it would attach event handlers and stuff. So they did all of that stuff completely outside of React. We just included the script and then added data attributes to the things we wanted to track. That was pretty legit. Like, it worked out okay. Wasn't too intrusive. Was really easy to make changes to different things. So I'm pretty okay with that approach. Except I wasn't super jazzed about the whole giant library for this thing. I don't think they needed it to be quite as big as they had it, but yeah, that seemed to work out pretty well. I'm sure that you could do something specific to React, like a use tracking hook, and then you use the prop getter pattern to apply props to the component that you want to track or something. That seems like a reasonable thing. Or maybe you could create a button component that has this functionality built in or something. But yeah, that's what we did. Any experience in writing tests to see if SEO is right on a page, like if the meta tags exist and yada yada? I have not done this, but I can't imagine why it would be a significant challenge. The problem, well, it really depends on how you're building your app, right? Because if you want to get the meta tags and everything, then maybe you're using React Helmet, and so you can kind of leverage some of that capability. But maybe the meta tags are like built in to the index HTML that is hard coded or something. So if that's the case, then that might be a little bit more tricky, and you'd probably use Cypress end-to-end test to write that kind of test. But in any case, I don't think it should be a really big challenge. Okay, what are ways to mark a component as deprecate? Oh, we talked about this one, Tiger. Thank you. Bum, bum. Yeah, sorry. And this is where people realize that I was late. Sorry, I was like way late. Okay. Wow, these questions were asked before it even was supposed to start, though. Yeah, the live stream technically starts at 9:30, so I wasn't that late. I mean, just speed on through these. Again, if anybody in the Zoom, some people joined. If you're in the Zoom, then your questions take priority over these. So feel free to ask those questions. How do I become authorized? I'm not sure what you mean, Ryan. Sorry. Oh, nope, we're good. Okay. And here, right around here is where I said, I'm coming, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Just started using Tailwind CSS. Any pointers? I'm afraid not. I used Tailwind CSS for like 3 days and then decided I didn't want to include it in my workshop in Epic React just because I felt like it would add too much and I wasn't experienced enough in it to be able to teach it effectively, right? So it didn't justify its inclusion for me. That doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile. It totally is, I'm sure. Epic React.dev, the app itself actually uses Tailwind. So the amazing developers who are building Epic React.dev, the app, not the content, but the app, that they're using Tailwind and they're doing awesome with it. So I don't really have any pointers. Yeah. Put together a learning club, find some curriculum about it and go put together a learning club. That would be cool. Okay, using screen is awesome. Do you have any opinions on CSS and JS against plain style sheets with something like CSS modules? So I used CSS modules like right when they came out. I was still doing AngularJS, and CSS modules was amazing. It was such a huge improvement to what I'd been doing before. So yeah, I'm a big fan of CSS modules. I think they're awesome. The reason I moved over to CSS and JS is because it allowed me to go more scoped to the, there were a couple of things, but one of the things was it allowed me to avoid naming things that I didn't want to make names for. Like if you've ever made a container or a wrapper class name, then like those are the worst. I hate those. And so the inline CSS prop allows me to just not even name stuff, which I really like. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing of CSS and JS for me. It also comes built in with um, tree shaking and code splitting. CSS modules actually has that same benefit. And so when I was at PayPal building the component library for PayPal, we actually opted for CSS modules. Well, yeah, that's not exactly actually. We didn't do modules. They created a CSS file for each individual component that I was building, or each yeah, basic. They gave me CSS files, style sheets, and they were separated by the type of component that you'd build with those with that thing, and then I would just import that one thing into the file, so I could get the benefits of code splitting and tree shaking from that as well. Not tree shaking, but code splitting at least, which was nice. So the way that I like to do it is regular CSS for the component library, and CSS and JS for the application. And I think that is a nice way to scale it, because if you decide one day that we're going to build another app and we're going to use a different framework or whatever, then you can at least consume the same CSS files the other component library was consuming. Or if you decide we're going to rewrite this app to another framework, it's not a big deal, because like you're not going to be super disappointed that you can't reuse the CSS and JS stuff, because like you're going to be rewriting this thing anyway. Having that as CSS wouldn't have made a difference. But your component library, having that as regular class names and style sheets, you may want to reuse that. So anyway, that's kind of my take on that. Okay, share thoughts on this thread. Let's take a look. Looking for a specific prop that page needs and redirect if not found. Okay, sorry. Handle scenario when the user gone to page 1 to 2 to 3 and not 1 to 3 by changing the URL or some other way. Yeah, you could use route state. That's probably what I do. It's kind of hard to like, so in your component, you check, find whether that state exists. Maybe it's in a context provider or the route state, as Amr is. Amr, I think I'm getting Amr's name right there. That, as Amr is suggesting, you could use route state. That's probably what I'd use. And if it's not there, then you render the redirect component or whatever, or just navigate away to page 2, I guess. That's probably what I would do. It's kind of hard without a specific example, but hopefully that's mostly helpful. Okay. What are you streaming on today? Today I'm going to be streaming the Epic React Dev live stream as a Q&A to answer any people's questions before things go live in less than a day. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, here, that's the logged in thing. Let me go to Epic React Dev in incognito, so I'm not logged in. And there it is. Less than a day. Oh my gosh, there are no days left on this thing. It's just hours, minutes, and seconds. And it's also not centered. We'll have to look at that. Okay. I'm not using OBS anymore. I'm using Ecamm, and it's working great. For Tailwind Labs, that's awesome. Put together a learning club, folks. Okay, any React custom hooks that you end up writing frequently that you wish were part of the official React hooks? I don't know. So I see React hooks as the primitives that you couldn't build any other way. The one exception, well, there are a couple of exceptions to this. One is use state versus use reducer. All we need is use reducer, and we can build use state out of that. And then the other is use callback and use memo. You can actually build use callback out of use memo. So yeah, I guess those two are kind of, I guess they were just so common that they were needed to be built in. There's others that like use previous, I use quite often, or use safe dispatch that I use pretty often, where like an async thing happens and I don't want to update my state if the component gets unmounted during the course of that async thing happening. But there are good reasons that those things aren't included, especially that one, because it's typically better to not even try to update state if the component got unmounted, like to have a cleanup that would prevent the state update from happening. So I cancel the request. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, and use previous, like it's not that hard to write myself, so I'm not super concerned. Yeah, I can't think of anything else that I just really wish were built in. When you have something built in, then it makes it harder to change and adapt to future changes. So yeah. What's my take on MDX in React? Holy cow, I love it, dude. Raphael, you're in here. Dude, I love it. It's awesome. Does it open more possibilities? Yes, it does. So I've been using MDX since pretty much it came out. And let me tell you, it's legit. I am happy with MDX. I use it for my blog. I use it for Epic React, the articles on Epic React. Oh, by the way, did you see this? What is that? And there's also this, but I'm actually putting up an updated version of this video, so don't bother watching that one. There's going to be a better one. But yeah, fun stuff. Yeah, more possibilities and stuff. So what's cool about it is that writing content in JSX is a pain, and then making interactive elements in a regular CMS or in Markdown is also a pain. And so you say writing content in Markdown is awesome. I love it. And writing interactive stuff in JSX is awesome. I love it. So let's just put the two together so I get the best of writing content with being able to put interactivity in there too. So that's what MDX does for me, and it's awesome. I love it. I want to contribute to React.js, but don't know how to start. That's a great question or statement. I have something for you to look at, and it is kcd.im/what OSS. So that might help a little bit. What open source project should I contribute to? It's not exactly like I want to contribute to React. How do I do that? But that might help. There's also a few years ago, I made a video with the, let's see, it was on my YouTube channel. I think actually it was Tech Chats. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel for this, and it is React events in depth. So if you want to learn how that worked, this was years ago, and then you can watch that. It's kind of interesting. And I think there have been some changes, but it's actually mostly the same these days. So hopefully that's sort of helpful. And they do have contributing documentation as well, so you can dive into that. Okay, cool. So Bruno's saying, I'm 7 years full stack dev using PHP, all that awesome stuff. Now I'm trying to evolve and start learning React.js. Any tips? Bruno, I've got just the tip for you. You ready for this? https://epicreact.dev. Probably don't want those exclamation points as part of that. It is the place to learn React, and it's coming out tomorrow, and it's going to be epic. And because you have experience with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then you are in the exact perfect place to start learning React. I also have this blog post, How to React, so you can take a look at that too. And yeah, the JavaScript to know for React is also relevant here. So perfect question. I promise I didn't line that one up. Okay, so I have run out of questions in the Discord, and considering that I started a little late, I'm willing to stay longer because it would normally be time for me to be done. But since I started late, I'm totally willing to hang out for a little bit longer if other people have questions. Um, that's great, Dinesh. Dinesh. I'm guessing it's
I
pronounced Dinesh.
have a question.
Yeah, Jose, what's up?
Hello, Ken. My question is with React Router, do you recommend it or do you have any alternative for small or medium-sized projects? Sometimes it feels like too much work for a small project. I don't know.
Yeah, so regardless of the size of project, if you need routing, then React Router is the best. So I wouldn't bother trying to build my own, even if it were a small project, unless I really needed to keep that byte size super duper low. But if that were the case for you, then you probably wouldn't want to use React anyway. You'd probably use Preact. And so yeah, like given that I'm using React, if I needed multiple routes, client-side routing, then I would 100% use React Router. And actually upcoming with Remix. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for Remix. If you go to remix.run and if you're like, what the heck is Remix? Then go to their development web blog, which will tell you all about how awesome Remix is. But yeah, so Remix is built by the guys who built React Router. And with that, even if you wanted it to be super small, you should be able to make it work totally without even JavaScript enabled, which would make it so you can get the beautiful flexibility and power of React Router and all the cool things Remix is going to provide, and have things small. But you didn't say you needed it small, so you just said it was kind of a smaller project. I would recommend React Router. It's awesome. I'm using React Router version 6 in Epic React, and it works awesome. There are some subtle things or small things that will be fixed hopefully very soon. But yeah, that's a long answer to your short question.
Okay, thank you very much. And I am checking the GitHub for your course and it's looking epic. So I am looking forward to access it. So
Thank you,
excited.
Jose. I think it's pretty epic too.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, do a course where it covers HOC, that's higher order components, and best practices with performance with newer features. Actually, so I'm not a big fan of higher order components. They're very limiting on the types of things that you can do. However, you will be interested to know that Epic React does have a performance workshop, and the fix perf death by 1,000 cuts has an extra credit where we write an HOC, a higher order component, to get the slice of app state. So that's kind of interesting. And yeah, it works out pretty nicely. So if you're interested in higher order components, I show you how to build a higher order components, or build a higher order component to optimize some performance stuff, which touched on 2 things you were asking about. So that's cool. Okay, cool. I think I'm going to wrap things up. This was a good time. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to be doing a live stream for Epic React here in just a little bit. Again, I apologize for being late. I do try to be on time and respectful of your time. When I commit to do something, I want to satisfy that commitment. And so I apologize for missing it or for being late. But it is free, but I did commit, so I want to do that. Anyway, in 26 minutes, we're going to be talking about Epic React Dev, answering questions about it, and then we're going to talk about Epic React. We're going to do a launch party, actually. So the actual live stream is going to be at 11, but I'm going to do a launch party at 10 in the Discord. So if you want to join me in there, we'll be in the Chit Chat channel. Probably. Yep, that's where we'll be. And well, shoot, I don't know. Maybe I'll make a voice channel for Epic React. That's a good idea. Anyway, there will be a place where we can do a live stream party celebration, and it'll be fun. So yeah, that's it. Any last questions before I jump off? Okay, cool. Then prepare your questions for the Epic React Dev Q&A, and I'll see you in a little bit. Peace out, folks.